If you're not involved in the SSA and you're in storage, I don't know how you're operating.
Why even be in the business if you don't have the advantages of what the SSA offers?
They're nuts if they don't join.
I just think, who doesn't want to help someone be successful?
I love it when we're giggling coming into this. That's my favorite part of this. We
Could not turn it off.
We just gel so well. Well, folks, welcome to What's Up SSA, our August 2026 episode. Not only are we still here, but we are thriving. Wouldn't you say so, Sarah?
I would say we're thriving. Look at our matching hats. I mean,
I know. The hats that everybody wants a piece of, which we are going to get into.
Yeah, why don't we get into that right now, actually?
I love it.
Let's start off with our announcement.
How do we get a hat? How do people get the hat?
You and I are going to be live on the trade show floor for our 7 listeners that want to come say hi.
That's right. That's right.
We are very excited to meet you. But what we're going to do is the first 10 people that come and say hi to us in our podcast booth and use the magic word will get a hat. And what is the magic word, you may ask?
Please tell me what the magic word is.
Well, in honor of our main featured speaker at conference,
Pow Pow,
who is Mr. Rob Riggle, we are going to make the magic word Randy after one of his most beloved characters in Step Brothers. And
right.
If you just come up to the booth, if you see us on the trade show floor and come up and say, hey, is Randy here? I heard Randy was going to be here. Is there a Randy? You will immediately get a hat if you're one of the first 10 people to say Randy.
No questions asked either. We won't grill you on your Rob Riggle knowledge or quoting ability. We won't ask you if you're a member, because there's going to be another angle for those folks.
There is another angle.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
We are just simply going to give you a hat because it will demonstrate, 1, that you're listening, and 2, that you understand how funny the word Randy really is, because it's one of my favorite Rob Riggle characters.
And then there are going to be a few other ways to get hats that we will roll out, one of which is a donation to our SSA Foundation Scholarship Fund, which is a scholarship that is available for our national SSA member organizations and their employees and families. We're going to get into that, too, in our next episode with Annette. So say Randy, make a donation. Here's another fun one. If you walk up and see us on the trade show floor or literally anywhere during the conference, I'll write your name down and get you a hat. But you, in front of me, have to take out your phone and either subscribe, follow, or like this podcast on either Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. Yep. I would give you a hat.
Which is the easiest way to do it. However, I just want to make sure these folks understand that I'm going to track your profile. And if you at any point unlike, unsubscribe, or unfollow, I'm going to want the hat back.
We're going to ask for the hat back.
I'm coming to your house. I want the hat back. Yeah. All right.
We will hunt you down.
We are going to sit down for our official September episode together, you and I, and really just give a quick and dirty sort of synopsis summary of what to expect at the conference, things we think you need to know about right now at the SSA. It'll be, like I said, short, quick and dirty, because we are going to record in Las Vegas at our SSA Fall Conference and Trade Show the first week of September. We're going to start bringing in some of our board members from the National SSA Board. There is a huge difference between people who are paid to do this, like myself and Sarah, although we love it and love what we do. We're employees. When you start getting into the neighborhood of board members, board chairs, board officers, these are folks that have full-time jobs that volunteer their time. Their trips aren't paid for to our conferences. We don't pay for their hotel rooms. We don't pay for their food. They are giving that back to our industry to help be leaders. So I'm really excited to have not only our board chair, but I believe that'll kick off bringing in more national board members into What's Up SSA.
We're going to start, like you said, kicking that off this fall and talking to a lot of people at conference just about how their membership in the SSA has shaped how they run their business, how it's shaped their career, and how it's helped their business grow. So look forward to a lot of those testimonials coming your way. But also, speaking of people that we have talked to, instead of going to talk to, who did we talk to this month? Woo! We have someone who has not been on before, That was fun. Do you want to talk about her first?
I do, because I am arguably one of the presidents of the Stephanie Satterfield fan club. I love me some Stephanie Satterfield. Frankly,
I am a member. I am a member of
You're a
this fan
member?
club.
Are your dues current? Are you good?
If my dues include drinking bourbon with Miss Satterfield, then yes,
Yeah,
my dues have
personal
been
note.
paid.
Anybody that's a fan of bourbons and you see Miss Satterfield in Las Vegas, she's a great one to cut up with about quality, types, preferences. That's her game. But
She is my bourbon mentor, just
She
so
really-
everybody knows.
she keeps me grounded.
Mhm.
Stephanie Satterfield, she's our director of membership and member outreach. I'm sorry, marketing and member outreach. Let me get that right. We know I don't do titles here on this podcast. I mess them all up every single time. But Stephanie, like the man she reports to, Mike Blackett, tends to remain a little bit behind the scenes, but the value that she adds to us as a staff and then to our members is really immeasurable. So I'm very excited to have Stephanie on. The purpose of What's Up SSA is to highlight who we are and what we do. And so to get a quote unquote SSA staff member virgin on the podcast is exciting to me. She's going to talk a little bit about what she does and what she impacts so that you know how to reach out to her when it's appropriate. She's also going to talk about her role in Vegas this fall at our conference, the vendor lounge, gamification, all things you guys should know about as either attendees of the event or as vendors of the event. We also spoke to Joe. Joe Doherty was kind enough to spend a little bit of time in arguably what's, the busiest part of his year, talking about the SSA Magazine's legislative issue, which is one of the most anticipated issues of the year. It comes out every August. He talks about the threats in the industry, things that are keeping him up at night, as well as offers a little bit of commentary on the points in the magazine.
Yes. And also, this is a timely conversation because our general session focus is going to be addressing the threats that are facing our industry because we are just no longer under the radar as we talk about.
It's always fun to ask Joe what's keeping him up at night.
Yes.
Other
when
than
it's not one of his many children.
I was just saying, other than his 15 kids. Which I know it's not 15, but for somebody who doesn't have any, it feels like 15.
And with that, I think we should let people get into this.
Let's get this done.
Okay, come ask for Randy.
What's Up SSA is brought to you by the 2026 SSA Fall Conference and Trade Show happening September 8th through the 11th at Aria Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. This year, we're shaking things up with revamped sessions, a new self-storage land use summit, and a reception that promises you, too, will have a ball. A big, big ball. A ball that is such a big deal we can't legally say its name, so please just check your member emails for details. One good idea or one introduction can pay for the whole trip. Don't miss the self-storage industry's highest caliber gathering of education, networking, and vendors. View the schedule, register, and book your room at selfstorage.org under the Events and Education tab.
Welcome back. What's Up SSA? My name is Erin Lightfoot, and I am your host on this August episode. And with me today, our Executive Vice President, Chief Legal and Legislative Officer, and frankly, the man putting the V in value for our members, Joe Doherty. Joe, how's it going today?
Hey, Erin, I'm doing great.
This is our mid-year check-in, and what coincides with our mid-year check-in is the most anticipated issue of the SSA Magazine throughout the year, the August legislative issue. Joe, I've brought you here today to chat about the August issue and talk a little bit how that's going to connect with our big fall conference in Las Vegas, which is just around the corner. Basically, I feel like it's already here. I feel like I need to pack. We are an industry, Joe, that is no longer a secret. We are on the radar. We are out there. People know what we do. With that comes threats. And with that comes misrepresentation, misunderstandings, things that are a focus of this issue of the magazine, as well as discussion at our upcoming conference. And I wanted to talk to you first about some of those threats and some of those misunderstandings.
Yeah, Erin, we have a great column in the August issue from Mark Wright, who is an excellent writer, and real kudos to Mark. And putting together and weaving together all of these different threats that have occurred to the industry. I think folks who are listening to this, they're familiar with what's going on in New York City with the Extra Space lawsuit, and then the threats directly from the city through its rulemaking process that started really under the previous administration, but has significantly ramped up under this current administration, where we're looking at things that just run so far afield from what we're used to dealing with. It's things like having to certify that your facility is free of allergens, and having to publish your average rent increases over the last 2 years. So a really wide variety of kind of a catch-all of what's every single way we can possibly hamstring this industry. That's how New York City, unfortunately, is looking at this. So we've got that on one extreme, and then just across the river, I'm looking at it right now, is Prince George's County, Maryland. I'm in Alexandria, Virginia right now. Prince George's County, Maryland, I think it's easy to say, or safe to say, hates self-storage. And the industry, because it's a large suburban area, has grown significantly in Prince George's County. There's a need for it in the county, but there are a number of county leaders that don't want us in the county. And they've imposed or tried to impose a $5,000 fee on 4 separate industries. And as I like to say, this is the Sesame Street ordinance. It's like, which one of these is not like the other? It's gun shops, tobacco shops, liquor stores, and I would think to fill in that fourth with something other than self-storage, but I wouldn't be mentioning this unless it were, of course, self-storage. Those are the types of threats that we're dealing with, and Mark does a great job of covering those in the August issue. And there'll be a really big focus on our general session, where we're going to have several operators together with Daniel Bryant, our colleague, and our Washington State lobbyist, talking about all these different threats.
Well, it's really disappointing. Joe, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Every business has its fair share of issues, crime, challenges, and our industry happens to be one that people turn to in the hard times. And so it's unfortunate that misunderstanding is frankly affecting their constituents and any of their constituents that may need our product. Get me their information. I'll send them all an I Love Storage hat. So maybe they'll reconsider their position, or at least keep us in mind. You talked a little bit about some things going on the East Coast. Let's move west to where I sit out here in SSA West, as I like to call it. The price gouging issue that happened after the LA wildfires.
Yeah, so let me set the stage for that. So there have, of course, been for a very long time wildfire threats in California. The most recent serious threat was from the Palisades fires that wiped out a pretty significant portion of the city of LA and Los Angeles County. And rightfully, in response to that, the governor and the local board of supervisors put in price gouging protections. We can get to whether that makes sense for self-storage, but there certainly are some industries where that makes some sense to have that type of protection in place. Fast forward, the governor, when he put in his price gouging order in January of 2025, it was effective for 1 year. We all knew it would be effective for that year period, and the industry could prepare for that, or at least respond to it within a reasonable amount of time. Fast forward, as that 1 year period was ending, the governor said, state is no longer going to regulate in this area. We're going to leave it up to the local governments. And we found out at that point that LA County had actually had a price gouging order in place pretty much from the length of the emergency back in January of 2025. And we got involved with trying to reverse that order. And it was actually quite a bit of data that we were able to assemble as an industry from both publicly available information on the publicly traded companies, and then from private operators that bore out a couple of important facts about the industry. And first off, I think most significantly, was that there was not a surge. In fact, there was not any real increase in use from the wildfires. It's sad to say, but when there are wildfires, people lose everything. And if there's something they don't lose, oftentimes it's contaminated with smoke and really isn't something they're going to be able to keep, much less put in a storage unit anyway. That's just a sad fact of this type of disaster. So that was the first fact we were able to pull out of the data, and then additionally, in talking to operators and in looking at the publicly available data from the public companies, we saw that the pricing of storage units had actually gone down over the last year from January of 2025 to January of 2026. And we were able to put together that data and some operators and reaching out to the local supervisors. It took us, unfortunately, a little longer than we would have liked to have taken us, because we did have to dispel some myths along the way. One particular supervisor who had a negative experience with the industry, but we were able to resolve that issue and go to the facts of that I just mentioned and say, the industry is functioning appropriately. The market is controlling prices the way you would expect it to in a well-functioning market. And you don't need these, what are really supposed to be temporary price gouging protections in place. And putting all of that story together, fortunately, and this is the type of work we do as associations, right?
Yeah.
Putting together data, coming up with a compelling story that's based on the facts and not just based on misinformation or misunderstandings, and then being able to tell that story to legislators and get positive outcomes for the industry. So the final exclamation point on this is that the sponsoring supervisor of this price gouging ordinance tried to get it extended at the end of May of 2026, and she was unsuccessful because of the work that our organization did, along with the California Association and our lobbying teams in California, to finally put an end to that price gouging order in Los Angeles County.
And what a sweet success that was, because it was the right thing to do. And as you said, the data backed it up. And we had the opportunity last month to chat with Mike Blackett a lot about data. And we now have Chelsea Glass on staff, who our listeners and members are going to get to be much more friendly with here in the coming months. We're going to have her on the podcast next month. Looking at data, I believe in some cases, it's incredibly critical to help dispel some misunderstandings in our industry based on the assumptions of legislators that have either had a bad experience or frankly don't understand our industry at all. One of the issues that is discussed that I have found most interesting, and I think data maybe comes into play here. I don't know. I only pretend to be a lawyer once a month on this podcast when I chat with you, is surveillance pricing and the AI behind it. I know that's another issue that we've certainly done some work on and we're exploring in the magazine. Let's talk a little bit about the surveillance pricing problems.
Yeah. So first off, let me define what surveillance pricing is. It's really a political or politically charged type of term that was invented a few years ago under the Biden administration. And what it's meant to get at is the use of personal data to set prices. So I think the most common example that we've probably all had experience with is airline pricing. You go on to American.com and you search for a flight, and then you don't end up getting it that day. A couple days later, you go back and it's 50% more than it had been, or maybe a couple hours even. You go back and it's increased significantly, and you kind of wonder what's happened. And JetBlue's been in the news recently for one of their customer service people telling a consumer, just clear the cookies on your web browser and the price will go back to what it was before. And Uber's ended up getting itself into a little bit of hot water about allegedly charging customers more when they have a low battery charge left on their phone. Instacart's gotten in some trouble with pricing products differently for different consumers. So it's really something that is much bigger than our industry. And frankly, I don't think that operators in our industry are using those types of practices that are really concerning to legislators. But the way these bills are written, they can even sweep in really simple facts that we might have about our customers that could affect pricing, such as how long have you been a customer? Yeah. Is your promotion about to end? What type of promotion did you receive? Facts such as what's the average in-place rate at the facility versus your rate. Things that are just not sensitive about somebody, such as the charge on their battery or whether they've searched for an airline flight because they have to get to a funeral or something like that. And really, our goal is to make sure that these laws either don't pass, or if they do pass, that they're written in a way that allows our industry to continue to operate using simple pieces of transactional information about somebody that don't get into what feels like snooping or looking over somebody's shoulder.
No, just being unnecessarily regulated when, we weren't doing things like that before. And I don't believe it's even a fit for our industry. But this is why we have you, Joe, and Daniel, and your teams across the country doing the good work for us. When we talk about threats, are these the threats keeping you up at night, if you will, presently? Are we missing any?
Yeah, these are the two big threats that are just persistently out there and keeping us up at night, especially the surveillance pricing. That one, it's an emerging issue. It's something that even 2 or 3 years ago, there were not state legislators talking about this. It was, again, it came up under the Biden administration. The FTC had done a little bit of work on it under the Biden administration, but state legislators weren't really looking at it until last year. And then we saw a big surge this year. I think we're going to see an even bigger surge next year because some of these bills have actually started to pass out of state legislatures, and the legislators like to copy each other.
Yeah.
And so I think we will see some of that copycat type of legislation. And then and as much as the rent control issue is a threat for our industry, I think at least at the present time, the threat of surveillance pricing is even bigger. But certainly the threat of rent control does remain in the ether. We've gotten, without mentioning any states specifically, we've gotten a couple of indications from some of our lobbyists and some consumer advocacy groups in a few states that they are looking at rent control for the self-storage industry in the 2027 legislative session. So that's something we're very tuned into as well, and making sure that we're in a position, if something does come up, that we're able to respond to it quickly, and with, again, going back to the conversation about data, with data-informed recommendations or data-informed information for legislators to act on, rather than just anecdotes or bad experiences that a handful of customers might have had.
I feel like the job of educating legislators across the country on just how wonderful our product is and how not nefarious it is one of the biggest uphill battles I've ever seen, because there's just so much misunderstanding.
Yeah, you're not only having to give them the facts, you're having to wipe away, or as Mark Wright calls it in the August issue, dispelling myths. So it's really a twofold war, I'll call it, or battle, as much as I don't really like like referring to legislation that way. It's getting rid of the bad information, misinformation, myths, and then replacing it with, no, here are the facts about our industry. Here are the facts about how we price, how consumers are in the driver's seat. These are month-to-month contracts. A consumer can leave at any time they feel like they can get a better deal somewhere else, or they don't need to use this storage anymore. There aren't background checks in the industry. There aren't security deposits. There's no long-term contracts. So it's really, again, wiping away the bad and replacing it, just putting it right into the heads of these legislators. No, here's actual information about our industry, and not just not just negative talking points that aren't often not based in reality.
Right. And then starting all over again when someone newly gets elected and replaces them.
Yeah. Yeah. So, term limits are a big thing in your state of California, and they can be good in some ways, that you don't have somebody who's 80 or 90 years old and maybe not up to the job anymore, still in the legislature, but it does make it a continuing educational process. And it really shows, I think, the value of the association, of having members of the association, because we are always having to engage in that educational process. And even a state that doesn't have term limits, there's turnover all the time.
Oh, yeah. Staff members who are just as important to educate. I mean, if the staffers aren't on board, then, forget about it.
That's exactly right. Oftentimes, I think this is something that folks who don't have a legislative background don't always understand, that in many cases the staff can actually be more important than the legislator. That they're talking to the legislator far more than we are or can hope to. And if we can get those folks the correct information and get them to understand our position, they can advocate with the legislator as well.
Well, I know that based on the time of year, it's August, it's going to get real busy. I'll be lucky to nab you again one more time this year for another update for our listeners. So, in your crystal ball of potential issues, problems, or concerns in the year or years ahead, is there anything that you're wondering or thinking may be the next threat for us, but maybe isn't today?
That's a great question. And that, to go back to what we were talking about earlier about what keeps me up at night, that's something that keeps me up at night. So Donald Rumsfeld, who was second President Bush's defense secretary, he would talk about unknown unknowns. Yeah. And this probably fits into the category, actually, of what he called known unknowns. I know there are going to be other threats that come up. I just don't know what they are. And we couldn't have anticipated a couple of years ago that surveillance pricing would have been an issue that we were dealing with. And even back when I started at the association in 2018, I had no idea that there would be a rent control threat for the self-storage industry. But if we can look at maybe some of what's happened with other industries, and this is actually something I wrote about, I think, in the July issue of the magazine, to plug the magazine again. We did a great panel discussion at the June conference in the Mid-Atlantic with representatives for the multifamily industry, the hotel industry, and the commercial development industry. So what used to be called NAOPs, shopping malls, office parks, that type of thing. And talking to them about what were some of the threats they were dealing with as an industry. And the one that really stood out to me was the threat relating to who is funding certain projects, and in particular, private equity buying up single family homes, and in the view of advocates that are opposed to that, jacking up home prices or preventing future development of homes, stifling the market. There are going to continue to be questions, and I know there's a lot of private equity in our industry. There are publicly traded companies in our industry. There have been some attacks on REIT taxation that have come up over the last couple of years. So that's an issue that I can see continue to grow in terms of who's funding your industry and maybe some restrictions around who can fund certain industries, or operational restrictions that if you are funded this certain way by private equity, that there are certain consequences then to what you can and can't do from an operational standpoint.
Well, I'm going to just make a couple notes here and hold you to some of those predictions while hoping they don't come true.
Yeah, that's what I hope to. I hope I'm wrong.
Well, if anybody has their eye on the ball, Joe, I know it's you, Daniel, Tim, our team at the SSA, and the folks you work with across the country. I certainly appreciate you. I know our members appreciate you. Before I let you go, and likely, as mentioned, for a couple of months, is there anything else you want to make sure our members hear from you?
Yeah, I want to put a plug in for our conference in September. We're back at the ARIA for the second year. Absolutely great venue. If you missed it last year, you missed Darius Rucker, but you're going to get to see, which I understand Erin maybe doesn't like as much as I do. I'll say that. But you will also have an opportunity, if you choose to accept it, to see me in the I believe the Wednesday general session. Again, with that panel that I'd mentioned, where we're going to talk to some operators, a couple of lobbyists about the different threats that have come up against the industry and how we're responding to those. And then I have the good fortune of being with Carlos Caslow on Friday for the closing general session, what we call the Legal Power Hour.
Nice.
Always enjoy doing that with my friend Carlos, and I have the good fortune of joining him this year. So if you are on the fence about coming, I hope we can entice you with some of those different offerings that we have. And if you're looking to maybe get out of town early on Thursday, please don't stick around for Friday morning and get some great information from Carlos and me about both the more on the legislative threats, and then some legal changes that you can make to make sure that you're keeping your business in compliance.
Great plug, Joe. Thank you. I used to refer to Carlos as the horse's mouth, if you will. I mean, in terms of a guy that was there writing some of the first pieces of legislation in some of our states. Carlos, it's always a treat and valuable experience to chat with him or hear him present. And I mean it this year. This year's different and exciting. There are a lot of different elements happening at the SSA Fall Conference in Las Vegas this year, whether it be information we're presenting on, the format in which we're presenting that information, even different opportunities for trade show networking, our vendors, and then, my goodness, heading over to this to listen to, which is going to be outstanding. It is a virtual show. I need to make sure I say that for our friends in the planning department, not trying to get anybody in trouble. This is a virtual concert, guys, and going to be an exciting experience. So, Joe, I won't see you till then, but Viva Las Vegas, buddy. I'm looking forward to it.
Same here.
What's Up SSA is brought to you by the Self-Storage Valuation and Acquisition course taking place in Denver, October 5th through the 7th. Self-storage industry veterans will lead this unique graduate-level real estate investment and facility management course, where students will be shown methods to apply decision-making financial modeling techniques for a variety of scenarios. Get all the details and register under the Events and Education tab at selfstorage.org.
Well, guys, I get excited about all of the interviews I do on What's Up SSA, but I am very excited about our guest, Stephanie Satterfield, Director, Marketing and Member Outreach. I think I got that right, Miss Satterfield. Outstanding. I have been known to get titles wrong, so I'm glad we're coming in strong with some accurate facts here. Stephanie, as you and I have spoken many times before in the past, the purpose of What's Up SSA is to show our members who we are, what we do, and how they can maximize their benefits. And like the gentleman we interviewed in July and who you directly report to, Mike Blackett, you are a woman behind the scenes a lot of the time. I think you're comfortable behind the scenes, but you add so much value to us. I think it's important to let you meet our members, let our members meet you, and talk a little bit about what's going on in your world. So with that being said, Madam Stephanie, tell me a little bit about what you do for the SSA.
Well, for lack of a better word, I think I am more of a girl Friday at the association. I pretty much have my hands in almost everything. I am in charge of the state's newsletter. I do write for the magazine. I do the education column every month with Tom Comey. And I help the state associations with all their website on the back end. I work with our graphic designer to create all the graphics that we are putting out in our magazine and on our website. So I got my hands on a whole lot of stuff. So
you really, really do. As somebody that I don't have my hands in as many pots as you do, but certainly several. You're a go-to. You're an anchor. You're the glue that keeps us together. You're the reason I get a program printed that doesn't look pixelated. So thank you so much. We appreciate you. I thought it was timely to bring you on in August because you are a key part of a lot of the activities that happen at the fall conference in September, our biggest event of the year. One, you're my partner in crime at SSA 101. You're really, really helpful for our members in terms of understanding the conference app. And it sounds like there'll be a little bit more of an expansion of how that conference app comes into play this year. So tell me a little bit about the importance of the conference app and some things you're adding this year.
I really, really encourage you to download the app. You can do it right now, Event Central, and search for Self-Storage Association and go ahead and download it. That way, when the app becomes live, you're ready to go. It's an essential resource for a lot of different things. Just the schedule, knowing what's going on. We have notifications that we send you throughout the conference in case something changes or you need to know something. But this year is really exciting because we've decided to add a game to the app. And it's really simple. You just go into the exhibit hall, start chatting up some of our fabulous exhibitors, and they'll have a QR code for you to scan. And the more QR codes you scan, the higher score you get. And the people with the highest scores during certain times of the exhibit hall will be awarded cash prizes. And we're not talking $50. We're talking big dollar amounts. So it's worth your while. Plus, you get the added advantage of meeting our exhibitors and finding out, what they can offer to you as an attendee.
That's pretty cool. So you mean I just get to be my cheery, chipper self and network, and I could possibly win $500, which I will immediately take downstairs to the blackjack table. Other people may make different choices. I just know what I will do.
Yeah.
How cool, though. What I think is really exciting about that, our particular group of vendors, in my opinion, are friendly. They want to talk to you. These aren't hard sell scenarios. They just want to meet you. They want you to meet them. Know I'm a resource to you. Understand what my product has to offer the industry if and when it makes sense for your business. So that's really exciting. I hope people take advantage of that.
Yeah, so do I, because this industry is I've worked in a lot of different industries, architecture, construction, and this industry is the most giving and thoughtful and just gathering industry and sharing. They're willing to share everything. So take advantage of that because you don't find that in other industries. You
certainly don't. I've said that before too. I've been in the self-storage industry for longer than I'll ever admit publicly. However, it's not because I love roll-up doors and space. It's the people. It's the mindset. So the gamification is happening. Download the app. I will ask our wonderful producer, Sarah, who you guys aren't listening to or seeing at this moment, to drop any information about the app into the show notes so that you can go to Event Central. I'm not a huge fan of different apps and figuring out how to sign in. That app is super easy. Every year I use it. And what's great about the app is you can tick certain sessions you want to make sure you don't forget, and it will send you the reminders and the banner ads. And heck, just as an employee at the conference, it gets me to the right spot. So I'm sure it's pretty helpful when you're attending and drinking from a fire hose. There's so much going on. But what you are partnering with me and Carol Franklin on this year is a new session called On-Site Essentials that I continue to call Exhibitor 101, but it is not called that. It is On-Site Essentials. And this is a form of vendor education. It pairs well with the vendor lounge, which you and I will be manning on site in September. And for those vendors listening, the Vendor 101 On-Site Essentials meeting is going to take place in the vendor lounge. So you'll get the content, a quick lay of the land, all in the same spot. Please join us for that. Stephanie, talk to me a little bit about the vendor lounge. Why are we doing it? What should people do in there? What can we expect?
Well, we wanted to give vendors a space that they can have as their own. They're stuck in their booths for most of the time when the exhibit hall is open, but maybe you want to go have a sandwich and you don't want to eat that in front of somebody else, or you've got a call from the home office and you need to take it, and you don't want to be standing in your booth having people walk up while you're on the phone. So the vendor lounge gives you a place to come and do that. You can also meet and talk with other vendors and find out what's happening, in their part of the industry. So it's just a good place for you to come relax, eat, and just kind of chill out, hang out with other vendors and you and I, because that's just cool to do anyway.
Yeah, just come to the Erin, and we're calling it the Erin and Stephanie Lounge. It's not the vendor lounge.
Yeah. So, it'll be a great time, and we'll be happy to answer any SSA questions that vendors may have.
So for our vendors who happen to come through the lounge and utilize that space to call home or meet with, another a colleague, whatever that looks like, come talk to us about state shows, national shows, advertising on websites. Come ask us all those questions. I'm excited that Vegas feels a little different this year. Would you agree?
No, absolutely. There's a lot more going on than normal. We've changed out the economic summit to now a land use summit, which I'm actually very excited about given my background in architecture and construction.
Yeah.
And I think it would be beneficial to our members. I think it's something new and different and exciting. And if you haven't signed up to come and registered to attend, absolutely do that. This is a very different event this year, and you don't want to miss it.
No, you don't. You guys please don't assign me any sort of SSA tasks during the AI presentation. I really want to see that presentation. And then, as Ginny mentioned on a past episode, the presentation that's going to be acted out. So customer storage scenarios, but acted out in a play format, which sounds a little odd, but I think it's going to be phenomenal. So I definitely have to see that. Certainly coupled with the closing session with Joe and Carlos. That's where I go complete fangirl. And I'm standing in the front row like it's a Motley Crue concert because Joe and Carlos are just... they put the V in value, as I like to say.
Yes, they do. That's a not missed session.
It really, really is.
The fact that you can get any question you have legally answered by two incredible experts is a win-win. You just can't not be there.
No, I agree. Stephanie, you have worked very, very hard with our new AMS vendor. Our members are now starting to hear us make some promises about a new experience for them in terms of the website and how they manage their membership profile and access their benefits. On a level of 1 to 10, how excited are you about what our members are going to soon experience compared to today's experience?
It's a 10. It's a complete different program. It's completely user-friendly. Imagine that you're on Amazon. That's basically what we're handing you.
That's
so
exciting.
You'll be able to register, join, purchase the magazine ads if you're a vendor, or you're going to purchase, a lien law booklet. You can do that all at once in one cart, and you're done.
That's unbelievable.
And we don't have that now. So it's going to be very, very simple for you to do and navigate and manage and add people to your membership. So I can't wait. I'm super excited for what it looks like. It's going to be amazing.
Certainly anybody that's been on the event side or dealing with vendors that want to do multiple things in one transaction, that's always been a challenge. So I want to go backwards just briefly. You mentioned earlier the state newsletters. I think our state newsletters are an incredible benefit to our state members. The content is always timely, relevant. It's never a sales pitch. I think it's safe to say that you take the same approach with our state newsletters as Tom does in the magazine, and that this is true education, true content written by real writers. Do you want to expand on that a little bit for our members?
Well, yeah, Tom and I really took care when I took over the state newsletters and compiling all that information. In terms of making it relevant, all the articles are relevant to state members. It's all, things that are happening to a small business, to a small family-owned business, or something that when they read it, they'll say, hey, that's me. I need this.
Right.
This is a really good article. So we really took care to do that. And we also revamped it a little bit in terms of the legal information, also making sure that all of the states were represented that were having events. So you have one place to go that you can find everything that's happening in your state or someone else's. And it's all right there. But it's really, really state centric. It's not, there are some national pieces, but we really try to focus on what's happening in our states and showcasing them.
And I think that's important to our state members. That is the key to a state member's desires. When somebody joins just one specific state, that's what they're interested in. And that's the content they expect from us. While certain national issues and articles are relevant and interesting, the meat and potatoes of what they're interested in is what's happening in their state or immediately around them so that they can make decisions best for their business or at least be informed.
Absolutely. That's kind of why my tagline for some of this is, it's what's happening in your backyard.
Well, you don't know what you don't know. I've said that in almost every interview this month. So I'll have to get a shirt or a new hat, perhaps. And I blame Joe Doherty for shoving that tagline into my head. Well, Stephanie, again, really excited that you were on this episode with me and took the time. You are a critical piece to not only the membership team, the events team, the states team, the magazine, and I just don't think you get enough attention. I know you're very comfortable being behind the scenes. Well played. You and Mike Blackett definitely have that in common. My God, the two most unknown employees. You guys can walk through the casino and not get stopped. We're all jealous.
Yeah, my days of being incognito are over after
You're welcome.
this.
Well, for those of you listening, if you have questions about the SSA newsletter, advertising on our state websites, the conference app, anything like that, please email info@selfstorage.org. Let us know you need to connect with Stephanie Satterfield, and we will make that happen. Ma'am, I am looking forward to seeing you in Las Vegas and really dominating that vendor lounge. It'll be a good time. Plus, I get to hang out with you all day. It'll be fun.
It's going to be fantastic. Can't
It
wait.
will. All right, guys, we will see you in Las Vegas. Please come by the vendor lounge and chat with Stephanie and I. Until then, folks, we'll talk to you again soon.
This episode of What's Up SSA was hosted by Erin Lightfoot and produced by Sarah Kautzman. All content in this podcast is owned by the Self-Storage Association, the only U.S. not-for-profit organization serving as the official trade association of the self-storage industry. To access member and industry resources or to become a member, please visit selfstorage.org. I love the sound of a roll-up door in the morning.